Yeah. Want to welcome you to another podcast of We Ain't Scared Talk. My name is Bishop A1 Truth, and we ain't scared. This is the church where everything is the truth. You may not like it, but it's good for you anyhow. Can I get a amen? Who in the hell left the gate open? The upper room. Look at your neighbor. Tell your neighbor it's good to see you. All right. Is it more about the bling than the king? Is it more about the ride than the great by and by? Is it more about the shoes than the good news? Is it more about the planes than angelic things? Is it more about the clothes than the heavenly robes? What's up, y'all? It's your boy, A1. And I wanted to kind of set the tone for today's show. And I know a lot of you are getting ready to celebrate Easter, and that's great. And it just it kind of got me to thinking, there's some things we need to talk about. So today is that day. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Let me turn this down a little bit, and we're going to go ahead and jump into this. Again, my name is A1, and this is something that, it's, and I'll say this again in a minute, it's been a long time coming, and we're going to just go ahead and go ahead and jump in. But first, subscribe. Please, subscribe. If you listen to this show, you like this show, hit that subscribe button. Share it, like it, tell a friend, listen again. We need you. All right? We need you. So this is something that is interesting because, you always wait for that right time. That right moment to talk about certain things, and then when it hits me, it kind of overwhelms me, and I got to talk. So this is about there's a pastor. His name is Pastor John Gray III, and he has a church called Redemption Church in Greenville, South Carolina, and I know he also splits his time between there and Houston. And I saw an article, it was on Yahoo. This man was wearing or owns multiple pairs of $5,000 to $6,000 Air Jordans. No joke. And wears them proudly while he's preaching to his congregation, who probably have never spent over $200 on a pair of shoes in their life. Okay. So let me give you a little backstory on Pastor John Gray III. Now, first, he describes his preaching style as James Brown meets James Taylor meets Lady Gaga meets Run DMC meets Billy Graham meets Michael Jackson. What are you talking about? I know every voice needs a new voice to communicate the message, but this just seems bipolar to me. And most of these are, as the church community would say, these are worldly figures that he is comparing his style to. Okay. So because of that, in my opinion, you've opened yourself up for what I'm about to say. All right. And, I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes, but if I do, oh well, so what? Deal with it. We Ain't Scared Talk We're going to talk about everything. And again, Easter Sunday's coming, and I know a lot of people that's their main focus. So, as I take a sip of my coffee, because as always, shout out Starbucks. Okay, so this is something that's been on my radar. Hold on a second. Okay. Again, this is something that's been on my radar for a lot of years. But I think recently came to an annoying head when I read, as I said, that article about Pastor John Gray, again of Redemption Church, and his recent extravagant purchase of these shoes, these Jordans. And I will admit the topic is going to be delicate for some. They're like, they grew up in the church, their friends are ministers, pastors, or what have you. And I've said this before on other podcasts. My own dad is a minister. Okay. But since the church is full of fallible humans that are not above being admonished, criticized, rebuked, and or challenged, when some of its behavior appears to reflect more of the opposite of the message it preaches, then we have to deal with that. And this is something, I know about the inner workings that goes on behind the curtain, and there's a lot of foolishness. And of course, I have to qualify this. No human is perfect. Okay, therefore, no church or organization, religious organization, is going to be perfect. Okay, but when you preach certain ideals and principles, okay, seemingly that are in you're engaging in the opposite lifestyle, then something has to be said. Okay, it has to be. So the title of this podcast, and I know there's a long intro, is Do Pastors Live Like Rappers? Do pastors live like rappers? So I guess for this particular show, we're gonna rename John Gray. We're gonna call him Pastor Little John. What? Pastor Lil John G Money Gray. That's his name for this show. Pastor Lil John G Money Gray. Now, just another qualifying comment. I respect any man or woman that chooses to preach the gospel or pursue whatever religious conviction that you want, because most people, let's keep it real, they don't have the courage to stand on something that may not be popular or viewed with respect by the majority of people. But again, that doesn't absolve you, okay, at the same time, of criticism. Okay, so God or the Creator, it's a very sensitive thing to discuss because religions are different all over the world. I'm not here to proselytize or convert anybody. This is just a foundational start. Believe what you want, that's your life. But because I can only speak from my experience, I'll start the conversation there and keep it there to avoid getting sucked into a lot of black holes and, getting off track. So here are my thoughts and questions. Okay. Number one, if someone decides to pursue a vocation or career that most of the world frowns upon, and he turns or she turns that business into a multi-million-dollar successful business, should he or she be penalized and forced to live in poverty to prove their love of God? All right, here's number two. If that same successful pastor or bishop becomes a multi-millionaire, should they be expected to maintain a humble lifestyle? Meaning no flashy cars, jewelry, mansions, private planes, okay, an IG account, Instagram, showing how luxurious their life has become. And keep in mind, this is the exact same behavior as rappers, hip hop artists. Okay, here's number 3. If the pastor of a megachurch has members giving their hard-earned dollars, money, to support that same megachurch, and his or her lifestyle, should the same church be obligated to create businesses and other programs to help those same members get out of poverty? Should there be schools, grocery stores, vocational programs? Okay, and here's number 4. Is there a such thing as showing too much success when you are a preacher or you're preaching? In part, from a Bible that also preaches meekness, humility, that has nothing nice to say about rich people. Nothing. Okay, and as a reference, when it says that it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get into heaven. And of course, it's a parable. Okay, that was reinforcing that money will not get you into heaven. But when you see pastors adorning themselves with bling and expensive things, it creates, in my opinion, a mentality that to be considered successful, I need those things. I got to have those things. And again, that's the same mentality as rappers that use it to project success that those same pastors look down on and tell their congregations not to emulate. All right, so here's my response to the first question or thought. I don't think the pastor should live in poverty, okay, or in a downtrodden state. But I do believe that there is a fine line between showing the goodness of God and the greed and excess of the world. And again, in my opinion, $6,000 tennis shoes, $6,000 sneakers while you preaching or asking the congregation to help pay for a $250,000 Lamborghini for your wife or a $65 million private jet, Creflo Dollar, seems to the average person an extreme luxury item that is over the top. And it's only there to satisfy that pastor's ego. And that has nothing to do with God. Nothing. Now, we could talk about a cattle on 1,000 hills and streets paved with gold, but it's all metaphorical. You know, the funny thought, so I'm like just going over this. I'm just having this visual now, pastor literally at some point, and I know this sounds crazy, but if Master P can have ceilings 24 karat gold, I'm just waiting for that bishop or that pastor that literally paves his driveway with 24 karat gold coating. So he can say he drives to his home on streets of gold. I'm telling you that's going to happen. I'm telling you it's going to happen. Okay, here's number 2. Humility seems to be a one-way street. Okay, you, me, we, the members of these churches are expected to be humble and serve, but the pastor does not appear to be practicing that same thing at all. And yes, for the record, I understand the time and the family sacrifice that these pastors and bishops make. I get that, okay? But that's a choice, okay? You made that choice. That's what you signed up for. You knew what you were getting into when you got into it. Part of it. Deal with it. Now, I know there's a mentality that some pastors have about showing the world the power of God and how much he can bless you if you have faith and give. But the question becomes, why to reflect the goodness of God, do you need to wear a $10,000 suit, a $15,000 Rolex, drive a $200,000 car, and live in a multi-million-dollar mansion? Now, my response is, if your congregation is funding, tax-free, by the way, your extravagant lifestyle, and you're unable to show that the money is being used to help that exact same community in which they live, the members, then it's robbery, grand theft, larceny, and using God and Scripture as the weapon. You robbing me without a gun. Plain and simple. Pastors know that most black folks have been raised with a deep fear of God. And that tells them, pay up or go to hell. Because God will be disappointed in you. This is what you always hear right before offering. Will a man rob God? Will a man rob God? But how about you, Pastor? How about you? Are you robbing God? Taking from the poor and not doing anything to help them? I feel like this mental conditioning leads to abuse or manipulation by some in the black religious community. Now, I'm certain there are many black pastors in the world that do the right thing by their congregation. But unfortunately, we don't see those splashed across social media. We only see the bishops with the bling. Bishops with the bling. Okay, reality show. And, and certain pastors, they can hide behind, I'm doing the will of God. But if your actions appear to be self-aggrandizing or puffery, are you actually heaping praise on yourself or God by your lifestyle choices? What ends up happening is your message loses its effectiveness. Now, again, let me qualify. I'm not against black people living well. I'm not. I think it's great if you discover a way of life that affords you the ability to benefit from some of life's luxuries. But again, if you ain't doing nothing to help the community that you serve, it's the key word, serve, then it will come off as you are no better than the CEOs of corporate America at all. You're just fleecing your flock so you can line your own pockets. Now, is it fair? Probably not. But again, this is what you signed up for. Pastors preach, you're in the world, but you're not of the world. But their actions speak again to the exact opposite. Some pastors have Jacob the jeweler and TV Johnny on speed dial. Diamond necklaces, Rolex watches. I'm waiting for a pastor to just come on out and wear a grill. I promise you, you're going to see that. Bishops wearing grills. iced out like TV. Come on. It comes off as more of do as I say, not as I do. I personally feel like churches that reach a certain level of economic status should share the wealth. If you have a church that generates $10 to $75 million a year, I think Lakewood in Houston, $75 million a year. And a lot of other churches, $10 million to $75 million a year, tax-free, people. Why not once a year give each member $500 to $1,000 for their faithfulness? You're making $2 to $3 million a month as an average. And that's, I can't get no appreciation back. And if I am in need, I come see the pastor or the bishop, and I got to fill out a loan application. I have to go through a background check because I'm falling on hard times and I need $100 to buy groceries. Well, let me look at your history of giving. I've had people do that to me. Let me look at your history of giving. Let me look at your history of giving, partner. Are your members not worthy of a blessing? If you can ask for a $65 million private jet, how come the members can't receive something for their sacrifice? Before you get in your G7 and fly off to Maldives or some exotic island and post pictures on IG about how good God is. All right, number 3, black churches need black-owned grocery stores in and near the church to combat the fast food crisis in the black community. Black schools to help black children. We have to stop allowing non-black business owners to come in and take over without any sort of pushback. The same way that there are liquor stores, fast food restaurants in the inner city, black churches litter every other street corner in the black community. That's the possible solution. These pastors are connected to the mayor, the police chief, city council, and legislature, state legislatures. So this should be very easy to do, people. I'm not a bishop or a pastor, none of that. And I can come up with it. Okay, number 4, in my opinion, yes, there is a such thing as showing too much bling. You imagine if Jesus walked around with gold ropes, necklaces on his neck, Rolex, $5,000 Jordans? Well, he's walking around preaching the gospel? What? His sandals. Oh man, these Giuseppe sandals. I got this Gucci belt for my robe. I just got my hair permed. I'm ready to preach. You'd look at that man like he was a fool. And you wouldn't take him seriously. When your entire outfit, watch, necklace, shirt, shoes, suit, car costs more than most people's average annual salary of $50,000 a year, then yes, I think you have crossed over into overindulgence and vanity and narcissism. Bishops, they're narcissistic. They have egos. People try to put down the Kardashians for their love of opulence and money. But keeping up with wealthy pastors, again, that could be a reality show in and of itself. There's no shortage of drama, money, and all the trappings of success. Another image that just jumped in my head. I'm imagining an offering time a pastor's going to grab one of those money guns that shoot out the dollar bills. Let's give to God. It's time to give. Make it rain on the offering plates, y'all. Well, again, with Easter Sunday coming, one of the biggest days for Sunday attendance outside of Christmas, those two, Christmas and Easter, people find their way there in thousands. Everybody is spending money to look nice, but where is the money going? Should pastors be held to a higher standard? Hell yeah. They telling you to live in a higher standard life. Okay? And especially because they're the ones taking the money from the community every single week and then turn around and chastise the same community. When Nipsey Hussle got shot, and I got to go to this, I don't recall the black church community as a whole out there in front of Nipsey's store. I don't recall that. But Nipsey was about the community. You heard from him in the community. I didn't see no bishops, no pastors, no men, nothing. But you want the same people that were out there marching to come to your church Sunday. Look, the behavior can be detrimental when pastors are not accountable to the entire body. So what do? And I have to remind you, nobody is above reproach or criticism. And when you get to a point where people are afraid of admonishing pastors or bishops, then you enter into a world of dictatorship. And that is a very dangerous place, and I'm not going to let it go. It ain't getting by me. I will confront and challenge. I don't care who the Pope, put him in front of me. I don't care who the biggest bit, put him in front of me. We got to have checks and balances. And I don't mean the checks with the money, pastors. So in closing, how many have heard that one before, right? Means another 20 minutes. Look, I know you have your own thoughts. And let me just, close out with this. I'm sure that there are some good pastors that are out there that are doing some good work. And for those that are doing that, keep up the good work. Hope is important. And there are people that will respond to messages, of hope and positivity, spirituality from certain people. We all have our own tribe. And I encourage you to keep doing it. But I also encourage the good ones that are out there to pick up the phone and call out the bad ones. What do you have to lose? Nothing. Nothing. Do something. Well, I want to thank you for checking out another podcast of We Ain't Scared Talk. You got some good food for thought. Listen again. Tell a friend. My name is A1 Bishop A1 Truth. You might not like it, but it's good for you anyhow. And remember, we ain't scared. Tell your neighbor, we ain't scared. Look over at your neighbor. Tell them, we ain't scared. Well, take care and enjoy your day.